He once said if the military leadership said it was time to end it, he would listen. They did. He still did not. But in our fourth story, what will John McCain do now that his wife has publicly advocated, in a sense, for the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell? We listen to her. The New York Times reporting that a draft of the long-awaited Pentagon report on Don't Ask, Don't Tell concludes that repealing it will not have an adverse effect on the military, with the majority of active duty service members welcoming open service. The report details that repealing the law may cause temporary disruptions, but nothing that couldn't be overcome with the right leadership, which seems like it would be a great opportunity for this Senator McCain from 2006.
But the day that the leadership of the military comes to me and says, Senator, we ought to change the policy, then I think we ought to consider seriously changing it.
That day came in February. The Defense Secretary, Mr. Gates, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Admiral Mullen, testifying to the Senate Armed Services Committee, saying, end the policy. McCain, the ranking Republican, told them, you're wrong.
At this moment of immense hardship for our armed services, we should not be seeking to overturn the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy.
McCain led the successful filibuster to block the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell in September, and he may do it again in the lame duck session. So color us intrigued over this anti-bullying message from the No Hate campaign featuring Cindy McCain, the senator's wife blaming government policies for contributing to the problem.
Our political and religious leaders tell LGBT youth that they have no future.
They can't get married.
They can't donate blood.
They can't serve our country openly.
What's worse, these laws that legislate discrimination
teach bullies that what they're doing is acceptable.
Our government treats the LGBT community like second-class citizens. Why shouldn't they?
Time now to call in Lieutenant Dan Choi, former Army officer and Iraq War veteran who was discharged under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, currently an advisory council member of the American Foundation for Equal Rights. Thank you for some of your time tonight.
Great to be with you, Keith.
Am I overstating this? I mean, there's some further information from her, but it seems like an extraordinary thing for her to do, given her husband's position on this, and given that she probably could have made a case in that public service announcement without contradicting him at all.
I think it's very significant what she said, because it underscores the values behind the repeal effort and the values behind any kind of movement to restore justice or to increase freedom and to support our basic values. What you're seeing, though, I think, in the McCain family is Mrs. McCain misses what Mr. McCain was when probably she married him. A maverick who was able to stand up for what he knew was right, saying that, look, if the military leadership says let's get rid of it, let's do the right thing and get rid of it. It looks that, in my opinion, there's a Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, not only in the military, but in certain political parties, where we're saying we shouldn't be able to say what we know is the right thing to do.
There is this, as I suggested, update from her. She tweeted, and not long ago, I fully support the No Hate campaign and all it stands for, and I'm proud to be part of it, but I stand by my husband's stance on DADT. I guess the simple question on that is, how's that possible?
It contradicts everything that the No Hate campaign stands for, and it makes no sense. I think when you talk about, as she did in some of the PSA, that bullying leads to the suicides, and when you talk about the legislation that okays the bullying, we have to realize that if you speak one way and then your actions speak in a different way, it's irreconcilable and it's immoral. We have to realize one thing, that there's a loud homophobia on the part of certain people with certain platforms, but there's also a silent homophobia on the part of certain people who have the power but do nothing. Loud homophobia and soft or silent homophobia end up having the same result.
For months, the Republicans said, you know, wait until this report is out from the Pentagon before voting on repeal. Now we've got a preliminary sense of what's in it. How does Senator McCain, how do the others continue to justify their position?
There's no justification for discrimination. I don't know how they got away with it in the first place. I think when you take a look at what the study was saying, we are validated in the fact that if you listen to the veterans, if you listen to those soldiers who are serving on the ground right now, and the younger generation who says, why are you even making an issue of this? There's gay people everywhere. There's gay people in our military units, in our churches, in our families, in our communities, and there's no reason to have any kind of a discriminatory policy or unjustified study or poll. What we talk about when we want to get rid of discriminatory and unjust policies and unconstitutional infringement on our way of life, I think we have to realize that if we don't speak up because it's the right thing to do, then we really are failing in the beginning. And to say that we need to have a study, that's the reason why we're here in the first place, with only so many more weeks in a lame duck session to get rid of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. If you really wanted to do a study, you could have started that immediately. But the bottom line is you don't need to study discrimination. You just need to do the right thing and get rid of it.
Last thing, maybe the overarching news out of all this. There's a linkage today that I don't think a lot of us would have jumped to immediately. Does Don't Ask, Don't Tell in the military actually connect to bullying in the civilian world?
Absolutely. When you have justified discrimination in any government agency or in any public policy, you give cover to those people, to those young kids who can say not only that's so gay or give negative and pejorative statements about things and calling them that's the gayest thing I've ever heard, or when you use the term faggot. I think that you are giving cover to those bullies on the playground when you are a bully in the legislative arenas, and that's what we need to learn. We need to learn some responsibility in parenting. We need to learn some responsibility in our leadership and our public discourse.
Lieutenant Dan Choi, discharged from the military under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. As always, great thanks.
Thanks, Keith.